Hey everybody, welcome to Mahoney Matters Weekly Sports Show. I'm editor Chris Pugh, got our sports writer Mike Brown with us, and we're excited to start the show with a longtime Mahoney Valley coach, Rick Shepas. He's back in the news. He's the new AD of the Warren Harding High School. Rick, thanks for coming on. How are you today?
Thanks, guys. Great to be with you.
Yeah, you were telling us beforehand. They just named you, I believe it was Friday, and you're already busy at work right now. What's it like to transition to your new role?
Really, it's just like putting on the same old hat that I've worn for many years. And, the great thing about this opportunity is that, I'm working in a town, where sports matter to the fabric of this community, where the community's excited about all the sports programs that they have, really excited about the band. It's one of the things that my daughter's also mentioned to me. It seems like every stop that I have made, fortunately for me, we've had a great band, at every school and every stop that I made, and a great band director. That'll be the same thing here at Warren.
Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, what's it like? I mean, I look at your resume. I mean, Cardinal Mooney, Youngstown, Madison, Washington, and now Warren Harding. I mean, it's a lot of historic high schools with traditional, strong sports programs. Did that help you probably for your choice to go to Harding and their choice to bring you aboard? That there's so much history with all the schools you've been to?
Well, I think timing has a lot to do with everything, and I think where everybody's at in the evolution of their programming. I think that was the case for me. I guess when you look back at my playing history, I grew up in a great era. I love to be 59 years old and talk about my experiences in Little League baseball and all my developmental sports. I thought I had the most selfless and most encouraging guys, that developed me in my young coaching, young playing career. And then I was able to play for the very best coaches at Cardinal Mooney High School as an athlete there too. So, going from there to Youngstown State, where I played and was recruited by Bill Narduzzi, and then finished my career with Jim Tressel. I mean, how could you beat a sports career where you're being influenced by the Cardinal Mooney coaching staff, by Bill Narduzzi's staff, along with Jim Tressel's new staff, and where everybody's branched out to? And then, people forget I had training camp stops with the Browns when Marty Schottenheimer was there with Lindy Infante and, Bernie Kosar and that group. And then the Green Bay Packers with Forrest Gregg, so, I think that, and then Mouse Davis is the father of the run and shoot to finish my career in arena football. So, I try not to take the credit, for all of the experience that I have, because, I was taught by the very best. So, it's with respect, that I've worked all these years, and I can't even say that because I've never really had a job, because I enjoy what I'm doing so much. But I bring all those experiences with me, along with the experiences of being, the head coach at Poland, Seneca Valley over in Pittsburgh, Massillon for 7 years, Waynesburg University, and then coming back. And I think one of my favorite accomplishments was back in the Youngstown City, bringing Youngstown Cheney sports program back, and the Golden Bears at East. So, I'm sure that Steve Shiro and the administrative team in Warren, may have been looking at all of those experiences and said, hey, we want to restore some of our tradition here. We've got some promising coaches in a lot of programs here. We've got a good young football coach now in Matt Richardson. That's a Warren guy. Bring a guy in, that can support him both on the administrative end and the coaching side.
Yeah. Rick, when I think of all those great Warren Harding teams, and I think of those great games with Massillon and McKinley and stuff like that, and you're talking about bringing that tradition back, boy, that speaks to volumes to me, because when I growing up as a kid and I think of the great football in Mahoning Valley, boy, you think of the Warren Hardings and all those great teams like that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. And those are games that have to be played. Yeah. It's unfortunate to say how watered down, the high school playoffs have become. Yeah. And one of the things with watering down the regular season and letting everybody in like they do is, teams could shy away from playing those big games, but those are the games that people look forward to and people will travel for. I think the Youngstown Warren area did a better job than most creating that either that big game on a Friday night, but if they had to move the game to a Thursday or a Saturday, they would do so to get that crowd, And because, you got that new freeway, the 7-Eleven Connect, I mean, you could be in Warren for that big matchup against a Canton McKinley or a Massillon.
Yeah.
And you can create that big game environment that we know because we're older, but it seemed to have dissipated over the years in other places. So, there's a lot of excitement right now. There's a great vibe going on here, and we've definitely got our work to do, but we're willing to do that work and put our kids in a position to be successful.
Sure.
Yeah, I definitely vote for bringing back the Thursday or Saturday games. I mean, Friday night games are great, but have that second game where if you're like a fan of Poland, you can say, okay, I went to the Poland game on Friday. Now I get to go to the Harding game or Ursuline or whatever. I'd love to see more of that. That'd be great.
Rick, along those lines, I wanted to ask you a question about that. Because I know when I played, we would play on a Friday night. JVs would play on a Saturday morning. That's kind of a thing of the past now. Is it something where you want to have all your kids playing on one night? Is that why they've done away with Saturday night games for the most part, or what's behind that?
I think Friday nights have become synonymous in high school football, and then with you got the NFL playing a Thursday night game along with with game day college football playing a Thursday night game. You see, there is no Pac-12 anymore, but you saw how the Pac-12 the last couple of years went to a Friday night game.
Right.
So everybody's looking for that exposure because in the NIL world, right, they're trying to recruit their college campuses and they're looking for that extra money that could come into the programs, from the television revenue. So I don't know if that has had as much to do with it. I know for us, at Mooney, we like playing on a Saturday.
Sure.
I know there was a couple times we came over to play Warren. We played in Warren, on a Sunday afternoon at 2:00 when there was a teacher or a hospital strike with the nurses here at the hospital here. But those are still great venues. Plus, it gives you an extra day to practice.
Right.
There's so much information out with the sports science of the things now that you're able to manage your kids a little better way. But I'm all for that. I think that administrators are smart when they create opportunities, especially even for their local business owners, right? Think about that part of it too, how you're bringing commerce, to the community, local community. When you have that big home game, in your stadium, they're going to come to all of your eateries, and, what better way to service the public than through the eateries we have over here in Warren.
Sure.
Is there a secret sauce? Like I know, I worked at the Massillon paper when you were there, and obviously Massillon had a high standard for where they wanted the football team to be. Harding's a good team. Obviously, they could get to that next level. Is there like a secret sauce for doing that? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of easy answers like we'll work harder and we'll get everyone involved and everything. But is there kind of like a element that's needed to have Harding take that next step to get back to where it used to be?
Well, I'm going to get in here. I'm going to start evaluating some things. Now, I will tell you any secret sauce starts with work ethic. We used to have a phrase, Steve Studer used to talk about at Massillon, train at a level that your opponent is afraid to go, and I think there's something to be said for work ethic. There's so much being talked about, with the Ohio Department of Education and this whole workforce continuum. But that's what athletics is. Athletics, band, dance, all the co-curriculars, the musicals at the school, you know what I mean? Speech and debate. Those are all areas where you're spending after school practice time, to improve and to get better. You have to be on time for those things. There's disciplines that are involved. There's protocols that you have to follow. That is the workforce development piece, that we are trying to bring back in our society today also.
Fantastic. It never struck me. I noticed on the press release it talked about how you were interested in bringing back the wrestling program. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even know Harding didn't have a wrestling program. That seems to be really important. I think there's a definite tie-in with the football program. Good wrestlers make good football players. Is that kind of the mindset of just getting that program in place?
Well, obviously there's, wrestling is kind of a unique sport because when you go to a wrestling match, and if it's a dual match, obviously you're wrestling all your exhibitions, and then you go to your classes, your weight classes, and you wrestle off to win that weight class, and then you compete in the actual match itself. That creates a unique environment where every family can go and watch their child participate, and they're actually going to participate in that event that night, right? And then obviously you go to tournament play and things like that. So that's one aspect of thing, right? The participation. The other aspect of things is, for the kids at the lower weight, you know what I mean? The smaller weights that are not necessarily, they're under, let's say, 175 pounds. There's a lot of fantastic wrestlers, that might be undersized, but they're tenacious as hell. They get after it pretty good, especially some of the guys that might be, I look at that 174 weight class where you're maybe long and lean but you make that weight class at 174, but you're just hard to, you're a guy that's hard to, for another guy to get his hands around you to get you on the ground. You know what I mean? I love it for intensity. I think it brings toughness to your athletic program for your kids. I mean, look at even the girls and the space that the Olympic space that it's created now for women's wrestling as well. So, it opens a door for many possibilities. Again, you talk about kids having the opportunity to participate in another activity, and then when you're trying to engage them in the academic piece and the management that takes place with the teachers and the administrators that way, it just breeds success for the kids, better grade point averages, better test scores, more opportunities down the road.
Talk about the facilities at Harding. I know they've done improvements to Mollenkopf in the last few years, and I know that beautiful gym and everything. You got to be happy about that too, I would think, Rick.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's what I did today. I spent the day in district with Mr. Lacey and Mr. Nicholson going over, to every one of the buildings that we have on campus here. And, they're in some neat areas. There's some great, green grass space for some outdoor activity. There's tremendous gym space, to start building programs from. And that's where we're going to start. We're going to start at these K-8 feeders that we have. We have 4 locally in town. We're going to get out. We're going to spend some time, in the community, find out who the stakeholders are, who are the people that are the right people to be role models and be around our kids, and then start building these programs to feed these great coaches that we have at the high school level.
Fantastic. Mike and I have been talking over the past couple weeks about divisions. You've said it, and we agree. It's kind of diluted a little bit, especially when it comes down to football. Where is Harding in divisions? I'm sure it probably varies a little bit about the sport. And what's your take on what you guys move forward with the divisions you're in for your sports?
Yeah, and they are changing the structure. Obviously, they've just added all 7 divisions in all the Olympic sports now. So, I mean, we'll make adjustments to all those changes. I mean, we're a solid Division II program, I believe, as we're heading into this, competition. But the hidden numbers, are in the competitive balance numbers, regardless of where you're at divisionally, right? Yeah. So you have an opportunity to improve yourself if you're an open enrollment school by competitive balance in whatever sport you're participating in. So those are the hidden numbers that I want to start looking at as I get into, the day-to-day operations of the job.
What do you think? And again, you just started. We're not looking for a commitment for what you want to do with Harding. I'm just looking at a general take on this. Mike and I were talking. It was interesting. Ohio was saying you could advance to Division I in certain sports if you'd like to. And we were like, wow, why would you want to do that? And then we saw the outstanding Fitch softball team. They're interested in going to Division I. And we noticed that there was I think it was 13 high school basketball and football teams, mostly in the South, that are moving up. Why do you think coaches want to do that? Is that something you would ever look at?
Easier.
Maybe in the future?
Easier route to the playoff state championship. Number one, I would say is the caveat for that. Look at what Aliquippa has done over in the WPIAL and in the PIAA. Aliquippa is a single A school in the state of Pennsylvania, but they participate up in 4A. They chose 4A. They chose 4A because they could handle that competition. They also chose it, because it's their least restrictive path to a state championship. Now they've dominated 4A as a single A school, and there was debate about the WPIAL and the PIAA forcing them into Division V, which is the next to the highest. 6A is the highest in Pennsylvania, and there was an argument there because they're already playing up as a single A. Why do they have to go up to 5?
Yeah.
So I was following that, and in recent weeks, I haven't looked to see how that, was resolved, but I would expect, that they'll still play in Division 4 over there.
Yeah.
A fun question. Right before I started work with the Massillon newspaper, they made a big deal about the Go Tigers movie that came out. You were the coach
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Massillon at the time. It's funny because now with streaming and all the sports networks, documentaries
yeah,
are more common. Probably a lot more
yeah.
documentaries are out there, but it was so unusual
Right.
at the time. There wasn't many
Yeah.
high school documentaries. Looking back at it, did
Yeah.
you enjoy it? Did you wish you could have did it differently if you were presented with the opportunity in 2024 other than a while back?
Yeah, I don't ever do the shoulda, woulda, coulda thing. That's something when I was approached about the documentary that I obviously could not say no to. When a filmmaker comes in and they want to do a documentary on your football program as storied as the Massillon Tiger football program, it was obviously welcomed with open arms, and then just adapt. Ironically, I had some meetings in the off season, with Mike Currents, a former legendary coach of the Tigers, and he had given me some tremendous advice. Jeff David was one of my boosters that set up that meeting, and Mike and I had several meetings in the off season. I was looking for his insight, on how to change the dynamic at Massillon and what direction I should head into, and then as fate would have it, we made those changes and we started that philosophy right when we had all the Go Tigers cameras and all the microphones in our face. So, it created a little bit of a heightened sense of urgency. It wasn't a big deal to accommodate. I had complete trust in the filmmakers that they would represent us well, and I think for the most part they did. And again, it's a privilege, when you are the head coach at Massillon to have those opportunities. So it's one of those things where, it helped brand me, in a unique place in high school football as well, being a part of that.
Yeah.
And it was so groundbreaking. I mean, a lot of things that we face now in high school football, you guys brought them to the surface, with Go Tigers. So, really interesting.
Yeah.
Rick, I wanted to ask you, I read an article recently where 36 states have approved NIL at the high school level. What do you think about that? Do you think that day's coming for Ohio?
I don't think Ohio will be able to avoid it, when you mention that 36 states have already gone down that road now. And I haven't really thought a lot about, the negative that's going to bring, all of interscholastic sports, because we see what it's doing to college sports right now. And it's creating another layer of individuality, where most sports that we participate in are team sports. So I will say this, I've spent a lot more time thinking about how I would handle my players with the transfer portal. In many cases, much more than the NIL philosophy.
Sure.
Obviously, the NIL is going to be generated towards the individuals who are standouts in those areas or might look a certain way. But what about that? What about that individual that's just a producer and just that productive? Where's the opportunity of the NIL money for them, and who's going to promote them? So, on one hand, when we think of workforce, it creates more opportunities and different opportunities for, people to work for young people with, right? So marketing people, who's handling the contracts for the NIL, how that money's being dispersed, et cetera, right? So it creates jobs. I think that's great. The other side of it is the transfer portal, because it's going to give kids the impression, that they need to play in specific programs to get that big dollar from the NIL. And that's really that's definitely not what I played sports for.
Right.
I played sports for the coaches that I was going to be around, the way I was going to be developed. And that obviously has created lifelong opportunities for me in the workplace, in whatever I chose to do. I happen to be in education and coaching and building the same, culture around young people. So, I think it creates an interesting dynamic for us all to think about on how we would handle those things.
Sure.
Tradition and rivalry means so much in Mahoning Valley and across Ohio. You've been at different places in the Valley and with Massillon. Are you already hearing from some of your old coworkers like, man, I can't wait to play you. It'll be fun to meet up again. How's that work?
Well, I definitely think there's interest out of the Canton and Massillon area, obviously, because they want to make sure that this game continues to be played.
Yeah.
You know, for the record, you know, Gary Barber and I are the two individuals as coaches of our respective teams, me at Massillon and Gary here at Warren Harding. Were the two people that put the contract together to reinstate, you know, the Massillon Harding game. And I'll tell you what, it's something that I was very proud to be a part of. And unfortunately had to take my lumps in, you know, but there were great players on the field. There were great crowds and that generated great memories. Same thing with the old All-America Conference tie to Canton McKinley. So, you know, there are calls coming in. I was actually kind of surprised and maybe I underestimate my regional career over these years and how many people were, you know, wishing me, you know, well wishes and good luck and, you know, that were coming from, believe me, all areas of the region, whether it be Ohio or Western Pennsylvania.
Good. We'll look forward to it. I mean, those are always fun games when you look at Harding and McKinley and Mass. It'll be fun to see those, you know, continue and come back in some cases. All right. Well, Rick, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with Harding. We're looking forward to following you. Have a great day, Rick. Thanks for coming on our program.
Thanks, Rick. Good luck to you.
Guys, thanks for having me on. I'll look forward to talking to you here in the coming weeks.
Sounds great, Rick.
We'll look forward. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, Rick Shepas, the new AD of Warren Harding. We thank him for his time. It was funny. I don't think I ever interviewed Rick in person, but you know, when I was a news copy editor at the Massillon Independent, Rick was the head coach and a larger life figure. Lots of good things he brought. I'm really impressed. I never got to talk to him about Go Tigers, and I know probably depending on how you look at high school football, you may have liked it, you may have disliked it, but I like how he stood behind it. I mean, Rick seems to be a forward-thinking, I want the best on my kids type thing, and good for Warren Harding.
He's had success everywhere he's gone. I mean, he is one of the best.
Well, and I look at it too, just from reading some of the Facebook groups in the Warren area, you know, Harding was okay. I think they were fighting for a playoff spot near the end, but I know from reading the Facebook groups, a lot of pressure. A lot of people like, man, I want Harding to be better. And, you never know for sure what record's going to be like. But I know Rick Shepas is the type of guy that's going to go in and drive success. And as I asked him during the interview, I like the fact that he's coached. He's been part of programs that are high functioning, high priority. There's a lot of pressure. We're going to pump success. He did that in Massillon. You think about when he worked with Cardinal Mooney and how he helped lower functioning programs get better. And
when I think, you know, he brought up the old All-American Conference. When I think of that All-American Conference that was around way back when, I think it was back in the 50s and 60s, that was one of the greatest big school football conferences in the history of Ohio. When you think of Warren Harding and Massillon and Canton McKinley and Steubenville and Alliance and East Liverpool was a lot much bigger back then. That was one of the greatest big school football leagues ever in Ohio. So when he was talking about that, boy, did that bring back great memories for me.
Yeah, and let's bring back the games. I know I don't think Harding always plays McKinley and Massillon each year.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's bring back those games. I know there's a lot of great teams Harding to play on here too, but bring back that tradition. I like the fact how he understood that tradition about even if you went to another high school in the area, and support your local high school, nothing against that. But sometimes you've got that game on a Saturday night. I mean, I remember, man, even when I worked in Alliance, I'd cover a football game on Friday and Saturday night. I'd be like, man, what's that best game in the area? And I would often go to McKinley or go to Massillon to see that game. I love how he understands that, he respects that, and hopefully he can bring that back. That'd be good.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of other things happening in our area. I got so into the Rick interview, I lost my notes. So let me bring this back really quick.
Well, I know one thing. We have talked about this, and I think everybody is starting to ramp up. It is July now, and everybody's starting to think. It's hard to believe that the high school football regular season, I believe, kicks off. There's actually some Thursday night games, I think, on August 22nd, but everybody else will kick off the season on August 23rd. So we got 7-on-7s going on right now in football. So you and I were talking, and we're going to be posting some high school football quite a few actually high school football schedules on our site. So if people are looking to find out about their favorite area team or teams, those schedules will be on the site. I think we started with Boardman today, and we'll have a lot of high school football schedules on the site.
Yeah, they haven't been posted as of yet, but it's a good idea, and we'll
Right.
definitely have them up
Yep.
in the next few weeks at most. But
Sure.
we'll get them up as soon as we can.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we also have, we're bringing back the high school player of the week polls and the player of the year. Just a fun way. Vote for your favorite players. Show your community pride and spirit. We have the unlimited voting, and you might say, well, that's not American. Well, we're not trying to duplicate the American political system. It's just a fun poll. If you want to vote 100 times for your favorite player, go for it. If you want to vote 1,000 times, go for it. It's just a way of having fun, trying to see which high school community backs their kid the best. So we will have that starting with week 1, 2. That should be fun, and we'll have our regular coverage. Mike will be covering games in the area. We have a team of other people that'll be helping us out too, so we're looking forward to that too. It should be a lot of fun. Couple of notes, Mike, I wanted to mention real quick. Youngstown State, we've talked about their basketball program. A lot of changes. New head coach, Ethan Faulkner, after the previous coach left. Youngstown State is staying local. They got Faulkner from Calhoun's staff,
right,
and he's got his team set up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, college basketball, there's a lot of new faces. I mean, it's going to happen. You're going to have guys transferring in, transferring out. But it seems like Youngstown State's got a good program, good guys coming at least.
And that's the new name of the game. You're going to see people coming and going, but I really like the fact that YSU, the continuity standpoint is still there with them. And Calhoun had so much success, and the new head coach learned under him, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of the same systems used, and I think that's paramount, especially early in the season. I think that really gives teams that have guys who are in the system a chance to have more success early on.
Yeah, and again, I'm not faulting Youngstown State because all schools are going for this. There's a lot of new guys for each program.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be the test for Faulkner and let's say every college basketball coach in the country, with all the transition going back and forth.
Sure.
I mean, you used to think of some of these college teams go, wow, they had guys that played together for 3 or 4 years in a row. You're not going to see more.
Not as much. Nope.
Yeah, and previous coach was able to do that for Youngstown State. Hopefully, Faulkner can keep that going, where you take in guys coming and going, and you still make the best of what they do.
Right. Sure.
And I think you saw it last year for Youngstown State. Sorry, a little bit slowly, but they really caught fire as the season went on. So
absolutely.
Should be good. Some other Youngstown State news I just wanted to mention. Kind of a busy week. Youngstown State has a new baseball coach. We don't talk as much Youngstown State baseball in the program. They had a tough year. So they have a new coach now, Trevor Sharpie, I believe that's how to pronounce his name. A busy season for Youngstown State. New men's basketball coach, women's basketball coach, baseball coach. Trying to find some information about him. He was assistant coach for YSU in the 2024 season. He pitched in the minor leagues from 2017 to 2019. Youngstown State had some struggles in the regular season, but they came back. They won 4 games in the tournament. They ended up finishing the runner-up in the Horizon League. so excited to see what happens. Like I said, I don't know much about the new coach, Trevor, but it seems like a lot of people are excited about him, and we'll see what happens with Youngstown State baseball.
I know there's good history with YSU baseball, so hopefully that will continue on, Chris.
Yeah, very much looking forward to that. And we might as well talk a little bit more baseball. The Cleveland Guardians, I shared with you a link. Major League Baseball does power rankings. We know the Guardians have a really good record so far this year. Yeah. Interesting. MLB.com has them currently ranked 4th.
Yes.
And which pretty impressive, I would say.
And that's that's playing the balanced schedule now. So, it's not like years ago before they went to the balanced schedule where they were playing mostly teams from the AL Central. And, that for many years, the AL Central was kind of down. So, and then those teams would get in the playoffs and then, they wouldn't do well recently. Now, before that, they did. But with the balanced schedule, it's all out there. You're playing everybody. And they're having a really good season. Yeah, the one team they can't seem to beat are the Royals, though. But luckily, the Royals are about 6 or 7 games behind. But the Royals have kind of had their number for the most part this year. But they've done well against everybody else.
Well, if you look at the other top teams, I mean, the Phillies are really, really good this year.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see. I don't think the Guardians have played the Phillies this year.
I don't know, but I think with the balanced schedule, I think you have to play everybody eventually.
Yeah, they'll play them sometime. It'll be interesting to see how they match up. I know the Phillies are kind of over and above the best so far, but number 2 they got Baltimore.
Yeah,
you could make the argument maybe Cleveland should have ranked higher than Baltimore because Cleveland did well
against Baltimore previous series. Yep.
Yeah, and number 3, the Dodgers. In theory, the Dodgers should be far and away the best team. Dodgers haven't really picked up tons of steam yet. It'd be interesting to see how they pick up as the year goes on. You got the Guardians at 4, Yankees at 5.
Yeah,
Guardians have done pretty well against them.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't sit here and say the Guardians are far away the best team in Major League Baseball, but it's comparatively with some of the other top teams. I mean, it's not.
They're in the mix. They are in the mix. It's amazing. And again, we talked about this before, but they're in the lower third as far as the operating budget in MLB, and look what they're doing. I mean, that's a great story.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. The other thing I wanted to mention is kind of interesting. The Pirates are still in the mix. They're kind of halfway down in the Major League rankings, but Paul Skeens has continued to be an amazing story. Yeah. Kind of interesting. One of our partners wrote a story about how so far this year, Skeens has never left a game without the lead or a tie game. And you think about it, it's kind of impressive. Yeah,
it is.
I know Skeens hasn't pitched, too far in the game yet. Maybe that's part of it. But man, that's all you ask for a pitcher. Put a pitcher out there. If he pitches 5, 6, 7, 8 innings, have him leave the game where you're not losing. And he's really done a great job of staying in.
That is an amazing statistic, Chris. It really is.
Yeah, and I don't know how close are we to the All-Star game?
We're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there. It's usually, I think, usually around the 3rd week, somewhere in there of July. So we're almost getting to what they call the unofficial halfway point. Although I think it's usually a little bit over when you get to the All-Star game. But yeah, we're getting there.
Some talk about Paul Skeens making. I know he hasn't played the whole season for the Pirates, but I think he'd make an argument for him being All-Star.
Yeah. Oh yeah, without question. Yep.
You think they'll get both their pitchers in the All-Star game?
Yeah, you never know.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, could be.
Yeah, and again, we get to the trade deadline. We've talked about this before. I'm starting to hear the Guardians are in the mix for some players. Haven't heard anything officially in terms of rumors or not, but it sounds like the Guardians are going to go after some people. Again,
I would think so. And I saw recently, I think they've had 7 or 8 sellouts so far, which, they always say, when you're doing well and we have a little more revenue going in for a low budget team, that you'll try and spend that at the trade deadline and try and add a player or two. So hopefully that'll be the case for them.
And again, they're in the weird mode. In the past, it used to be Yeah, they got pitching, but where's the hitting? Now they
Right.
almost have to work for pitching, which is kind of strange.
That's right. Yeah, because some of the injuries they've had.
Um, I didn't mention this in the rundown, but real quick, the Cavs. We talked about Kenny Atkinson. I don't think. Yeah, last week was the draft. We haven't got a chance to talk after the draft.
Yeah.
Don't know much about the guy they drafted. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I like the pick, and I was reading some of the grades. I think on the most part they got a B to a low A. They got a small forward, and that's what they need. They need depth at that position, and I think they've got a guy. This guy had a great year at Cal last year. Averaged I believe 20 points a game. He shot I believe just under 40% from three. So they've got a guy. That's what they're looking for. You want a guy get scoring production from that position and also good defense from that position. So, I think that was that was the only draft pick they had. They didn't have a second rounder this year. And I think they did as well as they could picking at number 20, Chris.
Yeah, it sounds like Jalen Tyson's a guy. It sounds like he's got a good mix of everything. Sometimes if a wing guy, you're like, okay, he can hit the three, but he can't drive. It seems like he does everything pretty well. And again, he got drafted 20, so let's don't make him the next LeBron necessarily. But he sounds to do everything. He doesn't seem to have a major weakness. I'll put that.
Right. Yeah. I think they got better in this draft. There's no doubt. I think they definitely filled a need.
Yeah, I'm seeing some social media reaction today. I don't know. The Cats really don't have a ton of money under the salary cap. I think they can give an exception to somebody or two. Yeah. I don't know what the fans are thinking. I think the fans are upset that the Cavs haven't made any major moves. Yeah. When you just have the exception, you're almost at a point where you have to wait until the top players clear out, and then
and you have to match salaries too. So I still think they're going to make a major move. I think one of their starting players will probably be traded. That'll be the move that I'll be surprised if they don't, because like I said, they have identical players at certain positions. So, and I think that's something where they could make a trade and get stronger at another position that would help them in the overall picture.
It would make sense for them. The only drawback I'm hearing is there's some talk about, Jared Allen. You want to keep Donovan Mitchell, but so you almost have to keep Allen to keep Mitchell happy. Yeah. The other thing I'm hearing, and again, it's Monday afternoon on July 1st. Still haven't had a contract decision by Mitchell. So, again, I've heard nothing to think that he's going to say no, but it's weird that nothing's happened as of yet.
Right.
The other thing that's going to be weird is the Darius Garland thing. I'm hearing that maybe, you can get something for Darius Garland, but are you going to get a 3 or 4 for a point guard? Some people say maybe that's hard to happen. There was a trade out there saying Garland for Brandon Ingram could be very possible. Mm-hmm. But I've heard of rumors saying that the Cavs really don't want to trade their top 4. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah. And some other talk is, Brandon Ingram's going to be up for contract extension. He's seen some other guys get the max. Some people say the Cavs aren't sure if Ingram's a max player. I tend to agree with that. So what do you do? It's tough.
I do think you don't make the trade unless you are definitely convinced you're going to better your team. I mean, you don't make a trade to make a trade. I think it's I think they're doing the right thing, waiting to see. But I think if they do pull the trigger on a trade, it's going to be for a player who's definitely going to make them better.
Well, and that's why I kind of wonder. I think the only thing, there's a rumor out there saying that Mitchell. Not that Mitchell and Garland don't get along, but Mitchell says, hey, maybe it's better if Garland leaves because we kind of match positions. Okay, if that conversation is happening, then you need to trade Garland. But like you said, don't just make a trade for the heck of it, for one.
Yeah.
And two, I kind of wonder, let's assume Mitchell would be okay if they couldn't trade Garland and they try to bring him back. Mm-hmm. What if I know you just got that with Tyson, but why don't you possibly just go out and get the best 3-and-D guy for the exception, or the best big guy you have for the exception,
Right.
add to what you currently have. And maybe you just sit there and say, maybe we have to bring Garland off the bench for a spark off the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys could all play together at the end of the year. I mean, I think there's options there.
Yeah.
I think the Cavs are in this weird spot where they're like,
They are.
okay, make a move. Maybe this is the move that makes most sense right now.
Right. I totally agree with that, Chris. And I still think they make at least one more move before they hit training camp in the fall.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they keep still.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I'm thinking too, if you're out there and you're like, wow, I just want the Cavs to make headlines, I want a big guy. You know, Paul George got the max. I like Paul George. I know there's some talk about 6-7 years ago. I think that LeBron was trying to get Paul George to play for the Cavs when LeBron was with the Cavs.
Yeah.
I like the idea 7 years ago. I'm not sure if Paul George right now is worth the max. You know, older Paul George, I'm not sure if that makes sense as much. I don't know if you saw this today, Mike. Just announced Klay Thompson is going to the Mavericks. I like Klay Thompson from 6 years ago. Klay is not the same player he used to be. 3 years, $50 million, which seems a lot for Klay Thompson right now.
That's modern day NBA.
Yeah, but you know, the hard thing about the salary cap is it can, cause issues down the road too. So you never know. So we'll have to see. I mean, I'm stunned. When we first started talking about this, I didn't realize we'd still be talking about a possible trade in July, but
that's true.
Nothing's happened yet. I mean, I thought the Donovan Mitchell thing would be done by now.
Yeah, right. Yep. Well, that's the key piece. I mean, and they have to be convinced that is going to happen, or I'm sure they may have done some different things at during the draft and things like that. But I think they're pretty confident that will in fact happen.
Or, and again, there might be a domino that needs to drop. You know what I mean? Maybe the Cavs say, hey, let's try to break the combo of Mitchell and Garland out. So, and maybe Mitchell says, hey, when you trade him, I'll sign the bottom line. So, I don't think there's an impasse. I think they're just kind of waiting for one spot.
Sure.
Oh, the other thing we should mention, since he's a local guy, any thoughts on the Bronny? Bronny ends up going to the Lakers.
Not surprised by that. I think that was rumored all along that he'd end up with the Lakers, and he did in the second round. And I think that's a good spot for him. And obviously LeBron's going to be happy with that. So I'll be anxious to see how that all plays out moving forward there. So.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a lot of people are sitting here like, is it nepotism or anything else? I don't know. Nepotism is different when you're in the NBA. And, okay, Mike, feel bad if there's nepotism and that kicks you out of the NBA. But it's not like we were going to be drafting the NBA if Bronny didn't get drafted. So I don't know why everyone's really upset about the whole thing. Is it the best for Bronny? I don't know. But again, we're just fans of the game. They know more than we do. I think Bronny's good enough to get a chance in the NBA. Will he last forever? I don't know. But I don't think it's totally outrageous to think that Bronny could play in the NBA. Now, if the Lakers drafted me right now to play alongside LeBron, that'd be ridiculous. But, I think Bronny could play. I don't know, man. It might be tough for Bronny. I mean, could you imagine if your dad was a famous basketball player and you make the NBA and you're sitting in the locker room with him? I mean, is that hard to adjust? I don't know.
Well, I think on the flip side of that too, I think that's a good situation for Bronny though, because as you're learning the NBA, there's dad there and who's been there and done everything. He's had every success, so it's good to be able to bounce things off his dad there in that situation. So I think that's probably that's a win-win for him going to the Lakers.
Well, think of this too. Like if I played in the NBA, my rookie year when I was 19, I was a different guy. I probably wasn't as mature as I would be or anything else. Man, Brian's a good situation with him with his dad. I think dad would keep on the straight and narrow. He probably won't make as many crazy choices as another 19-year-old may. So, yeah, that's the other good thing. So, very good. All right. Well, hey, always good to catch up. Always like having guests. Again, congratulations to Rick Shepas, the new Warren Harding athletic director. Never spoke with Rick in person before, but I like Rick, and I think Harding's Harding's
do a great job at Harding. Great job at Harding.
Well, if you're out there, Harding, going, is he going to be good or not? I like the fact that this was announced on Friday, and he's talking about he's already doing work. Yeah,
he hits the ground running.
Yeah, he stopped for an interview with us, but it looked like he was in the parking lot of the school. He talked about making the rounds at the school. Yep. When you're working on day 2, that's good. You're not just accepting congratulations.
And there's a guy who appreciates the rich tradition and the history of Warren Harding. So that's a win all the way around. Well,
I think too, a lot of people talk about, the Mahoning Valley is different. Is he used to Mahoning Valley? Well, look at his resume. I mean, Mooney, Poland.
Right.
He's worked at Youngstown State.
Everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, and he understands how it is. He understands the passion that Youngstown has for football. He gets that, and I think that's good. I mean, that's a lot better than bringing in some random guy that may not understand the passion that Youngstown has for football. So, very, very solid move. I didn't realize that he was back with Mooney as offensive coordinator recently, but no, very, very good move from Harding. Excited to see what happens with Harding. Again, he's the athletic director, but I'm sure he'll have his hands over all the programs to see what happens.
Absolutely.
I love too. I always was a sports fan when I was in high school, but I was a speech and debate guy. And having a guy, I mean, he mentioned, hey, we want to have a strong band program.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
You don't always hear football coaches or athletic directors saying that. Mm-hmm. And for him to say that opened my eyes. I was impressed. So.
Yes, it was.
All right, fantastic. Well, for Mike, this is Chris. Thanks for checking the program out. Have a great day, everybody.